Hey guys, Prangell Gaming here, and welcome back to the Talk the Wall. Now, this is the 6th installment, and today we'll be getting right into your responses and any questions you may have had. But first, if you haven't seen the other 5 installments, then I'll be leaving a link of the last Talk the Wall in this description of this video. And also, you could click the I button to get a link to the playlist to see any videos you may have missed on this Talk the Wall series. But as always, if you have any questions or opinions, do feel free to put them in the comment section of this video because I want a Millwall voice throughout. Also, I want you to put your score predictions for the MK Dons game in the comment section of this video, along with what you felt went right and what went wrong. Now, do bear in mind that I record this on the Tuesday in the morning, so what happened in the Barnet game won't be covered in this one, but it will be covered next week. So I'm going to start with your predictions, and you guys made a fair amount of actually getting this right. So I'm going to start with Ronnie McKeeley. He predicted 3-0 to Millwall, and he got that right. Also, so did Alfie's Wet Gaming. He predicted 3-0, and he also said it's because Oldham have brought too many players and the manager doesn't even know their players yet. Calzy HD also said 3-0, and then the first person to get it wrong was Elite Shears. He said that he was going to the game and he predicted 3-1. Also, Zenon predicted the exact same score there. And then the next person to predict was Joe Holloway, and he said that it would end up 4-1. It was slightly optimistic, but it definitely wasn't unrealistic, as we definitely deserved to score at least 4 in that game. Now, I'll start with the thoughts of Ronnie McKeeley, and he said, I think we should sign a good striker and a backup goalkeeper. But also, you didn't put my thoughts into your video. So, let me just stop there before I read anything else of what he said and say, if I have missed any, I do apologise. I may have missed them, or I may have recorded the video before I'd actually seen your comments, or I may have just missed them. I'm only human, I do miss them. But if I do happen to do this, feel free to put them in the comment section of the video that comes out next, and I'll cover them for as soon as I can. And as I said, I do apologise for that. And he also said here that he wanted to sign Marvin Sordell. Now, before I respond to this, Zenon actually said that our fans hate him because he accused of racism, which, to be honest, I don't know too much about that, but I just know there was a lot of rich history between us, so I don't like that too much. He also said that he's terrible anyway. Well, I can't really say that Sordell's that bad of a striker. I do actually think he's decent, but we can't sign him because he did recently sign for Coventry, and I do think that the Millwall fans wouldn't give him a chance, just like they did with Steve Lomas, because of his past. So next up is a full-blown conversation between Alfie's Wet Gaming and Zenon. So it all started with Alfie saying this was his starting 11. In goal, Jordan Archer, the left-back Tony Craig, 2 centre-backs of Nelson and Webster, the right-back to be Romeo, the left midfielder to be Ferguson, the 2 centre midfielders to be Williams and Thompson, Worrell to be the right midfielder, and then the 2 strikers of Morrison and Gregory. He also added to that Hutchinson would probably be injured for the match and he would expect Nelson to start. Zenon then responded with, he thinks that Harris will go with Craig at centre-back and Ferguson at left-back. Then Alfie responded saying, yeah, that's a shout, playing Wild at left midfield. Zenon then said to that, or maybe Aidan O'Brien. He said, my team would be Archer, Romeo, Nelson, Webster, Ferguson, Worrell, Thompson, Abdu, O'Brien, Gregory and Morrison. Then the final thing that Alfie said was, yeah, we'll have to see how Abdu performs. He could be terrible, but he could also be brilliant. Zenon responded to that about Abdu, saying he's a good player most of the time and always gives 110%. So what do I make of all this? Well, I said before the game that I expected Fergie to play as left back and Tony Craig to be the centre back, as this is generally what Harris tends to do. But if I was Harris, I probably would have started Wild instead. But I cannot complain too much because O'Brien did score in that game. Also, I wouldn't put Abdu in, as even though he does put in 110%, I just don't think he's as good as Thompson and Williams, because Abdu makes far too many mistakes. Now, I know he does make up for them, but he's too slow compared to the other 2 that do move with the ball. And the way that both of those played in the first game against Oldham, I know it's only early days, but it was still very, very good. Then Joe Holloway said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Harriet has left Charlton and gone to a championship side. The 3-0 win was practically a pushover and not an achievement. We did show great strength down the wings with Worrell and then the later addition of Wild. It was probably due to the heat, but we did not push them as much as we did in the first half in the second half, and with striking options like Fred, I can see where we fall short. Fred was just not simply confident on the ball, and he's not a player we need in the club. I believe Philpott should have received at least 25 minutes to train him into the striker we need. So you are right with Harriet. He did join Reading literally 3 hours after me recording the video. It was so frustrating to see that happen, and that's happened with quite a few players now. now I've mentioned in some sort of key way. So let me just quickly name them. So Chris Kirkland has actually left Bury on personal reasons, and Che Adams has joined Birmingham. And that's not to mention the amount of players that I originally had shortlisted, but this transfer window seems to be a window where the players that are pretty good in this league tend to go to a championship side, which isn't too bad because they're achieving something. Now, I know the 3-0 win wasn't amazing, but we did show a lot of promising signs, being able to defend, scoring goals, and for once, a couple of set pieces were added to the collection of scoring, which we don't always do. Now, what I would have done is I would have subbed Morrison and Gregory off at half time and put Philpott and Fred on, as we had already won the game, unless something really bad was to happen, obviously. Now, I do agree that Philpott needs time, as he has proven he isn't a bad striker in pre-season, so I do think he needs more and more game time. 7 minutes on a pitch just simply isn't going to do it. Zenant says, people are saying the new kit and badges are very poor on both the home and away kit. Apparently, they're just stickers, and many have fallen off in the first wash. Now, for me, Gregory goes for about 4 million in my opinion, but I know we won't spend all that money on getting a replacement if he does happen to go. Abdu says he wouldn't mind being a manager in the future, and no one knows what the future holds. He then said his starting 11 for the Oldham game would have been as followed: Archer in goal, Romeo at right back, the two centre backs of Webster and Craig, the left back as Ferguson, the right midfielder as Worrell, the two centre midfielders of Thompson and Williams, the left midfielder of Wild, and then the two strikers of Gregory and Morrison. Now, he said he's preferred 11, but that has been shown earlier in this Talk the Wall. Harris said we might sign a keeper, but we should wait until at least January after giving King a chance in the Checker Trade Trophy group. If he plays poorly, then either recall 40 or sign someone. He also said Josh Wright, yes, you remember him. He is the new Gillingham captain, and Lee Martin is out for the whole season after breaking his ankle. He also said in terms of transfers, it would be great to see Cahill back as he's a free agent, but I don't think we can afford him. Now, with Gregory going, I couldn't agree more. We would only spend about 1.5 million on a replacement, and that probably would be a midfielder, not even a striker. We'd go for someone in non-league football like we have been with pursuing Harry Smith. I still think Abdu wouldn't be great as a manager because he is too shy as a captain, but you never know, that might change. He might sort that out in the future. Now, with signing a goalkeeper, I really have to say we have 3 goalkeepers already, so we shouldn't have loaned a goalkeeper out if we wanted 3 goalkeepers. So I'd say stick at it with Archer and King. They will really appreciate it a lot more. But if we do need someone, think about it in January. But it's just stupid because what was the point of loaning the goalkeeper out in the first place? If our season goes sour, then we might need someone, but that is if it goes really, really bad. Now, finally, with Tim Cahill, I've got to say that himself, he said that he wants to stay at home, which is New York for him as his family settled there. Plus, his wages probably is what the club is worth at the moment, so this deal would never happen unless he did happen to take a huge wage deduction, which, to be honest, is very unlikely. Plus, he is getting on a bit, and I don't really want ex-players coming through, especially Cahill, as he would really only be a 1-season fix. And then we'd have to replace him, which is, again, a bad situation. It's just like a loan player. You don't want to have to replace someone that could come in and do really well, but then need to replace him because you can't afford to keep him. Not to mention, he probably wouldn't have the energy to play through every single game for us. Now, Joe Holloway said this about the kit. For the kit, I'm not sure, but after my purchase, it looks like it has a very thin stitching holding the badge down. The shirt is very thin, and I can see them ripping like the Switzerland kits in the Euros. Zenon then replied to him, the badges are supposedly awful as stickers, most of them coming off after one wash, according to the AMS, so I'm not buying one now. Now, I have said what I've said about the shirt, so I don't want to really say any more, but I will say, make your own minds up as them, as I cannot really do that for you. Just be careful if you do get one, because people are saying stories, and I don't know how true they are, but obviously, just be careful, do whatever you have to do to try and preserve the kit, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. There's not really much you can do. Now, I'm going to be taking this time to bring you some news in Millwall. There's been a fair few things happen recently with Millwall, including Byron Webster committing his future to the club by signing a contract will keep him at the club till 2018, which is great for the club, let me just add, as he is a fantastic player. He can attack, he can defend. That's pretty much something you can't say about many of the centre-backs in our league. So what do you guys reckon on this? Do you think it's a good thing, or do you reckon that it might come back to bite us in the future? Also, Millwall have agreed a fee with Folkestone and Vincia for Harry Smith. As far as I'm aware, he has already signed for us. We've also got him cheaper as he will play, or we will play, should I say, a friendly against Folkestone and Vincia next season in pre-season. Now, I don't know too much about him. All I do know is that he is 6'6" and he'll give us something to aim for up top. Now, that is providing he comes into the starting 11. To be honest, I am unsure. We'll have to see when he joins. Do you think he is going to be the answer to the striking issue that we may have at one point. Do you think he could replace Morrison and Gregory when one of them could be injured? In other team news, Hutchinson is unlikely to feature against Barnet and Gregory isn't travelling to the match. So it'll be interesting to see how the game goes. I predict the score to be 1-0 to Millwall, and I think that we will play a fairly youthful team as I cannot see too much happening. Last time we played Barnet, we did lose, so I do have zero expectations for this match. Now let's talk about the match that we played against Oldham. So we won it 3-0, and the big difference was obviously I predicted 2-1, and obviously we didn't concede and we actually kept a clean sheet and scored more goals. Anyway, Lee Gregory scored from the spot, giving us a 1-0 lead. Then Aidan O'Brien added to the lead thanks to a Worrell assist, and then Byron Webster scored his third in 2 games against Oldham, which was also assisted by David Worrell. I was really impressed with the first half, but the second half we did lose a lot of steam, but overall it's pretty good to keep a clean sheet even if it is against someone like Oldham. Also, I was impressed with the work rates of David Worrell and also with Williams, as he won the ball back a lot, as well as Steve Morrison, who showed a lot of energy despite him not getting any younger. Now that does leave Millwall at the top of the league, which is great to see, but can we keep it up? I'll leave you to answer that question. Also at the moment, the other teams in the top 6 are Gillingham, who are second after they won their game 3-1 against Southend. Third are then Scunthorpe, who beat League 1 newcomers Bristol Rovers 3-1. Walsall are then fourth, and they surprised me here as they beat another newcomer into the league, AFC Wimbledon 3-1. Bury then beat our rivals Charlton 2-0 and are now fifth in the league table. It's safe to say it wasn't the best start for Nicky Jose and Charlton. And finally, sixth in the league table is Peterborough United, who won 3-2 against Rochdale. Now I know it's early days and the table is likely to change, but it is good to be at the top even if we don't stay there. So that is all we got time for today. Do feel free to put your questions and opinions in the comments section for the next Talk the Wall. However, don't forget to put your score predictions for the MK Dons game in the comments section, as next week I'll be covering the game and highlighting the good and bad points for both the MK Dons game and the Barnet game. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week for the next Talk the Wall. Goodbye.